Welcome back to Web3 Projects Reviewer today.
Right.
We're diving deep into Ripple,
Oh, cool.
a system that aims to make sending money around the world as easy as sending a text. We'll explore how it works, how secure it is, and what impact it could have on the future of finance. It can seem complicated, but we're going to break it down so anyone could understand it, even an 8-year-old.
That's a great goal. A lot of people hear terms like cryptocurrency and blockchain, and their eyes glaze over it. But at its heart, Ripple is all about simplifying how we move money.
Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine you and your friends have a special notebook where you keep track of who has which toys, snacks, or even dollars. That's kind of like what Ripple does, except it's a digital notebook that everyone on the network shares.
That's a great analogy. This digital notebook is called a shared ledger, and it's constantly updated with every transaction. And since everyone has a copy, it's super transparent and makes it almost impossible for anyone to cheat the system.
So no more waiting days for international transfers
Okay.
or paying those hefty bank fees.
Exactly. Ripple transactions are confirmed in just a few seconds, and the fees are tiny compared to what traditional banks charge.
Wow.
It's like sending a text message. Instant and inexpensive.
That's amazing. But what about security? How does Ripple prevent people from spending the same dollar twice? You know, like trying to buy 2 candies with the same dollar at the store.
That's a great question. And it brings us to one of Ripple's key features, the Ripple Consensus Algorithm, or RPCA.
Okay.
Think of the RPCA as a team of super smart referees who carefully check every transaction before it's added to the shared ledger.
So these referees are constantly making sure no one is double spending or trying to pull a fast one.
Precisely. These referees are actually special computers called validators spread across the globe. And if someone tries to spend the same money twice, the RPCA flags it immediately, and the transaction is rejected. It's like having a super efficient security system that's always on guard.
That makes sense. So it's not like one single person or authority calling the shots.
Not at all. And that's one of the coolest things about Ripple. It's a decentralized system, meaning no one person or entity controls it. Instead, this network of validators works together to make sure everything is fair and square.
If you're enjoying this deep dive so far, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Now, I'm curious about these validators. How are they chosen?
Yeah.
And how can we be sure they're trustworthy?
Well, each server on the network maintains a list of trusted validators it relies on for consensus. These lists are called unique node lists, or UNLs. It's like each server having its own group of trusted friends with different opinions.
So it's like having a diverse group of advisors that you trust.
Exactly. And the more diverse the UNL, the more secure the network becomes. It's harder for a bad actor to manipulate a system when there are so many different viewpoints involved.
That makes sense. It's like the old saying, 2 heads are better than one. But in this case, it's more like hundreds of heads are better than one.
Right. And to make things even easier for users who might not want to choose their own validators, Ripple provides a default UNL. Think of it like a recommended friend group, carefully chosen to ensure trust and security.
So it's like having a trusted group of experts to handle your transactions.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of choosing your own. That's pretty cool. But I'm curious, how does Ripple compare to its more famous cousin, Bitcoin? We know Bitcoin can also be used to send money. So what makes Ripple different?
That's a great question, and it highlights a key difference between the two. Remember how we talked about Bitcoin's energy-intensive mining process? Well, Ripple doesn't rely on mining at all.
Really? So no complex math problems to solve or massive amounts of electricity being used.
Exactly. Ripple uses the RPCA to verify transactions instead of mining. This makes it way faster and more energy efficient than Bitcoin. It's like the difference between waiting in a long line at the grocery store versus using the self-checkout lane. Bitcoin transactions can take minutes, even hours, to be confirmed, while Ripple transactions are settled in just a few seconds.
Wow, that's a huge difference in speed.
Yeah.
And it sounds like it's much better for the environment, too.
Absolutely. Bitcoin's energy consumption has raised a lot of concerns, while Ripple's approach is much more sustainable.
So Ripple is not only faster, but also greener. That's pretty impressive. It sounds like they've really addressed some of the key limitations of Bitcoin. Now I want to understand more about how this Ripple consensus algorithm actually works. Can you walk us through it step by step?
Of course. Let's break it down using terms that even an 8-year-old can understand. Imagine a shopping cart filled with pending payments. This is called the candidate set.
So each payment that needs to be processed is like an item in the shopping cart.
Exactly. And then we have our trusted referees, the validators, who act like super smart computers. They're carefully checking each item in the cart, making sure everything is legitimate.
So each validator is looking at this shopping cart of transactions and deciding whether they're good to go or not.
Right. But the cool part is, they don't all have to agree 100%. As long as a supermajority, say 80% of the validators, give the transaction a thumbs up, it's approved.
It's like a super fast, super secure voting system for money.
You got it. And once a transaction gets that 80% approval, it's officially added to everyone's digital notebook.
Yeah.
The shared ledger.
This is all making a lot of sense now. Ripple sounds like a very clever system. But what happens if a validator tries to cheat? Can they be held accountable?
Absolutely. Ripple has built-in mechanisms to identify and penalize dishonest validators.
Okay.
For example, if a validator consistently votes no on legitimate transactions or tries to push through fake ones, they can be flagged and removed from the network.
So it's like a self-regulating system.
Yeah.
Where bad actors are eventually weeded out. That's reassuring to know.
Precisely. This helps maintain the overall integrity and trust in the Ripple network. It ensures that the system remains secure and reliable for everyone.
This is fascinating stuff. If you're as intrigued by Ripple as we are, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave us a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's shift gears a bit and talk about what makes Ripple truly unique. What are some of the things that really make it stand out from other payment systems, both traditional and digital?
What's fascinating here is that Ripple isn't just about making things faster and cheaper for individuals.
Right.
It's also designed to work seamlessly across different currencies and countries, which has caught the attention of banks and financial institutions.
It's interesting. So even though Ripple aims to cut out the middleman, banks are actually embracing it. It seems a bit counterintuitive.
It might seem that way at first, but it makes sense from a business perspective. Banks are always looking for ways to reduce costs and improve efficiency, especially for international transfers. Ripple offers a solution that's significantly faster and cheaper than traditional methods.
So it's a win-win for both banks and their customers.
Exactly. Customers benefit from faster transactions and lower fees, while banks can streamline their operations and potentially pass on those savings. It's really shaking up the global payments landscape.
It sounds like Ripple could have a major impact on the future of finance if more banks and institutions adopt it.
It certainly has the potential. By making financial transactions faster, cheaper, and more accessible, Ripple could help level the playing field for individuals and businesses worldwide, especially in developing economies, where traditional banking can be expensive and limited.
That's a really exciting prospect. Makes me think about all the possibilities that open up when we remove the friction from financial transactions.
Absolutely. Imagine a world where you can send money to anyone, anywhere in the world, instantly, with minimal fees, regardless of what currency they use. That's the kind of future Ripple is working towards.
It's a vision that has the potential to transform the way we live and do business. But what about the regulatory landscape? Are governments on board with this kind of disruptive technology?
That's a key question, and one that's still being worked out. The governments around the world are still grappling with how to regulate cryptocurrencies and decentralized financial systems like Ripple.
So there are some concerns about how Ripple should be regulated.
Yeah.
And who controls it?
There are. Some governments are concerned about the potential for money laundering and other illicit activities, as with any financial system. Others are worried about the impact on their own national currencies and existing financial regulations. It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
So while Ripple offers tremendous potential, there are also some challenges to overcome. It's a reminder that innovation often moves faster than regulation.
Precisely, and it underscores the importance of open and constructive dialogues between innovators, regulators, and policymakers to ensure that these new technologies are implemented responsibly and benefit everyone.
This is a topic we could probably spend hours discussing, but for now, let's shift our focus back to the technology itself. You mentioned that Ripple uses a unique consensus algorithm to verify transactions. Can you elaborate on how this algorithm differs from the one used by Bitcoin? We touched on it briefly, but I'd love to understand it better.
Of course. Bitcoin's consensus algorithm, known as proof of work, is based on a process called mining, which we've talked about before. This involves miners competing to solve complex mathematical problems using a lot of computer power and energy. The first one to find a solution gets to add the next block of transactions to the blockchain.
And Ripple takes a different approach.
Yes, as we've discussed, Ripple uses the Ripple Protocol Consensus Algorithm, or RPCA.
Okay.
It relies on that network of validators we talked about earlier to reach a consensus on which transactions are valid.
So instead of miners competing to solve puzzles and using tons of energy, it's validators agreeing on transactions through the RPCA.
Exactly. And because it doesn't involve mining, it's significantly faster and more energy efficient than Bitcoin's proof-of-work algorithm.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Ripple's approach seems to be a more efficient and sustainable way to verify transactions.
Yeah.
Which makes sense given its focus on speed and cost effectiveness. It sounds like a really innovative solution.
It is, and that's one of the key innovations that allows Ripple to process transactions so quickly and efficiently, which is a major advantage in the world of global payments.
This has been an incredibly informative deep dive into the world of Ripple. If you're enjoying it as much as we are, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and leave us a comment below. We love hearing from you. Now, before we wrap up, I'd like to touch on a few key takeaways. Can you summarize what makes Ripple stand out as a potential game changer in the world of finance?
Ripple offers a compelling alternative to traditional payment systems, particularly for cross-border transactions. It's faster, cheaper, more secure, and designed to work seamlessly across different currencies.
It also seems like Ripple is gaining traction among financial institutions, which suggests that it's not just a fringe technology, but something with real-world applicability and potential for widespread adoption.
You're absolutely right. The fact that banks are embracing Ripple's technology is a testament to its potential to transform the way we move money around the world.
It all sounds very promising. But I'm also curious about the potential downsides. Are there any risks or challenges associated with Ripple that we should be aware of?
Of course. Like any emerging technology, Ripple faces its share of challenges. The regulatory landscape is still evolving, and there are concerns about how to address issues like money laundering and consumer protection in this new decentralized world.
And there's also the issue of centralization, which we briefly touched on earlier. While Ripple is designed to be decentralized, the fact that a single company controls a significant portion of XRP tokens raises concerns about potential conflicts of interest and control over the network.
That's an important point, and it's something that potential investors should carefully consider when evaluating Ripple and other cryptocurrencies.
This has been an incredibly thought-provoking discussion. It's clear that Ripple has the potential to revolutionize the financial industry, but it also faces some significant challenges. I think it's safe to say that the future of Ripple, and indeed the future of decentralized finance, is still very much in flux.
What's important is to stay informed, ask critical questions, and approach these new technologies with a healthy dose of skepticism and a willingness to learn.
Well said. And on that note, we'd like to encourage our listeners to continue exploring the world of Ripple and decentralized finance. There's a wealth of information available online, and we encourage you to do your own research and form your own opinions. It's fascinating to think about how these new technologies could reshape our relationship with money and finance. If systems like Ripple gain even more traction and traditional banks become less central, what other ways might we manage our money in the future?
That's a great question to consider. We're already seeing a shift towards more decentralized financial systems, and it's likely to accelerate in the coming years. Think about the possibilities. Peer-to-peer lending, micro-investing, even entirely new forms of currency and value exchange.
It's exciting and a little daunting at the same time. We're on the edge of a whole new financial frontier.
Absolutely. The future of finance is being written right now, and it's a story that we all have a role in shaping. It's important to stay informed, ask questions, and be open to new possibilities.
Well said. And on that note, we'd like to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Ripple. We hope you found it informative and thought-provoking.
If you're eager to learn more about exciting or fraudulent projects in the Web3 space, be sure to subscribe now to get updates on our latest deep dives.
Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.